Hello, this is Dale Matthews. It's Thursday, and I'm joined by Mike Jones and Vika Nikodian. Hello, gentlemen.
Hey, Dale.
Ahoy.
Ahoy. Vika is obviously joining us from the Caribbean.
Yes.
No problem, man. Loving it.
Right. So we've got an eclectic mix of stories for you this evening.
Yes, we do.
And Mike was asking me a little before, in what order should we play these stories? And I said, let's play the funniest one first. So that's what we're going to do. Here comes the funniest story of the week. This is from yesterday's weekly business session. Go ahead and play that, Mike.
Larry Graves came to you the day after you suggested that it would be a great idea to approve this drone project at the airport. And he said, you know, I've got some people who are working real hard out there, but the main reason they need more money is they're going to be working on this drone project. Well, great, we'll give them money starting in January. They haven't done a lick of work on a drone project. They can't have done any projects like that. It's cost us money. You said it doesn't cost us any money. It has cost us money. You didn't tell the truth. So now that that project is over, why are these people still continuing to get double the amount of time? When were you going to tell us about your solution for that problem? They're getting paid for work they've never had to do. Larry Graves also got involved in an incident with a person out at the airport where he said, F you, F this, F that, and I want you off this airport. Well, you apparently gave him a warning. He's just done it again. When were you going to tell us about that? What's your plan of action for this guy? When are you going to fire him? Well, he's such a great employee. Yeah, it doesn't matter if he's a great employee. If you've got a whole bucket of vanilla ice cream and you've got a swirl in the middle and it's not really made out of fudge, you're not going to want to eat any of that. This guy's got a swirl in the middle. It's time to say goodbye to you, Larry Graves. You can't talk to people that way. It's like that's all. When were you going to tell us about this?
I'd like to remain silent about Mr. Matthews because his logic is not worth addressing. Mr. Graves is an outstanding employee. And I can only guess as to what situation he was talking about, but it was an individual who had illegally taped a meeting that Mr. Graves was in. And personnel matters are taken care as personnel matters. They're not aired in the public. So, Mr. Matthews, I suggest that you stop looking outward to try to bolster your low ego and look at yourself a little bit. Because Mr. Graves is a very upstanding man. And I would vouch for his character before I would vouch for your existence.
Ouch.
Wow,
That's
man.
great.
That is serious business. So, you know, it's a possibility, Viken, that we're having a conversation this evening with someone who doesn't even exist.
That's pretty strange.
What? I've never heard her say anything. She just, I don't think she knew this. She just sort of came apart there, and people even out in the hallway went, what did she just say?
Oh yeah, no. I was out in the foyer there with Sandy Casanelli, and we were having a conversation. And when this was going on, my head spun around like a pivot, and everybody else in the whole room were just heads jerked around, like, "Wow, what is going on in there?"
Well, Keith Heck had a reaction too. Can you put up that still? Look at Keith Heck's reaction here from the still picture from this.
Oh, hang on a second here. I'm going to have to grab it here a second.
Okay.
She actually suggested you're short on ego. What was that?
Oh yeah, thanks a lot. She also said that Larry Graves was the victim of this other fellow illegally taping a conversation.
Oh,
we
boy.
pointed out to her, so I know this sounds, that's pretty awful. Why? Maybe he's got a point. No, he doesn't, because it wasn't illegally taped. And Larry Graves, after he'd heard all about being taped, said, well, just F you and F this and F that, and I don't care if you taped it or not. You just F and go ahead. And, oh, really? So she just lied to us.
Well, that sounds like consent.
It sounded good at the moment.
Holy smokes. That sounds like consent, you know? Hey, go ahead and tape me.
It
And
does
here's what I
sound
have
like.
to say.
So, speaking of consent, one question one might want to ask yourself is there something in the employee manual, which I'm looking at, about suggesting to someone, as this guy did, Larry Graves, he's actually said, I'm going to F you. He didn't say F you. Now, if he had said that to a woman, not a good thing, buddy. So is he suggesting to this fellow that perhaps he swings another way? I don't know, but that was not a very nice thing to say. Certainly not what an employee should say. Let's take a look at that photo that you got there, Mike.
Yes. Yeah, this is. I guess this is a freeze frame from your video at the time, right after she got done unloading or something.
Right. This was right after she said, you shouldn't exist on this earth, or whatever it was that she said. She doesn't look happy, but look at Keith Heck. Does he look like he's a little bit happy with her statement?
Yeah, he does.
Isn't this a great photo?
Oh, man, the amusement is clear on his face.
This one's going to accompany, because what he's looking like is, oh, well, she really taught him a lesson. Do you really think that, well, first of all, can I be taught a lesson? It's a good question. But do you really think that she made her point? And
that is a good question.
Well, hey, the employees should be able to speak any way they want to the citizens. He's already been warned once. So the other thing from the employee manual is, what happens when you warn an employee not to use this kind of language? Is it okay? No. After you've warned them already and they keep doing it, what's the next step, gentlemen? What's the next step? Keith Heck thinks, oh, this is great. Woohoo!
Well,
I can't imagine.
What does the manual say?
Employees saying anything like that and getting away with it. That's just horrendous.
No, the manual says they're not allowed to use this kind of language. They're not supposed to threaten someone. He said, I'm going to get you off of this airport. That's against federal law. This is a problem. And that's why it says bullies over my shoulder, because this guy is a bully, and he's been warned about this. And Cheryl, well, I'm going to talk to him about it. Yeah, well, it's not just his fault. It's the fault of the management, who is obviously incapable of doing their job and keeping this guy muzzled, or at least putting some kind of thing over the mad dog that's talking like this. Yeah. I listened to that recording, by the way, just so that you know, the initial one this guy made, and he's been a sweetheart during this. I mean, everybody thinks he's just a little bit irritating, but only in the way he tells a story. Okay?
Yeah, but of course you would do that if you know that you have a recording device in your pocket running. You're not going to match the guy's tone.
Well, Keith Heck would.
Yes, but that's a whole different story. But listen, no, this is a really tough situation for this guy Dan out at the airport, because he owns several hangars at the airport, so he's not like he can pick them up and move them.
No.
So when they take a hostile stance towards him and make it so that they cannot do business, you have to wonder, what all's going on there. But this is a situation where Larry Graves has a lot of power, and Dan has very little.
And he's saying to Dan, we can't see you, by the way, Mike. And he's saying to Dan, I'm going to drive you off. And well, if you want to
he
be
offered to
precise,
give him a ride home. He offered to give him a ride home. What is wrong with that?
and he also, if you want to be literal about it, threatened him with a sexual assault. I don't think that's really what he meant, but you're not supposed to talk that way. Hey, remember when we had this discussion about who is supposed to be the boss around here? Is that really the way you talk to the boss? How long will you think you keep your job if you talk to your boss that way? We're the boss.
Yeah. So Cheryl turns it around on you. Oh gosh, this guy and his horrible language and his horrible behavior. Oh no, it's your fault, Dale. You're the one who's the problem. Isn't that just bizarre?
Beacon, do you remember what happened with the thing about the pornography easily available at the library?
I actually don't know about that. Holy smokes! I missed that show.
Well, Judy Ahrens came in, and she said to the commissioners, she said, look, why don't we have filters on the library's computers? Because you can just go there and you can get easy access to pornography. Oh, no, these silly, stupid citizens, Cyril Walker, paraphrasing. No, there's this, rest assured, everybody, that nobody has easy access to any kind of pornography. So we've got the guy from Keijo there, forget that. We've got the guy from the Courier there. I went down to the library. Are you a journalist or not a journalist? And I went in not knowing what to expect, and I was sort of careful about it, and boom, boom, pornography at the library. Women having sex with animals, men having sex with young boys, everything that you could ask for. Well, I wouldn't ask for it, but Mike might. And there it all is.
Hey, pal.
We know these filters can be done. I mean, schools do them, other libraries do them. So I have a question though. There's what is the word for a person who's doing what Cheryl is doing, like trying to weave this alternate reality with?
I got him over my shoulder here, buddy.
Oh, woolly bullies! There it is.
She's a bully. Well, and so when I went back and I said I did go, and Judy's right. Well, you know a lot about pornography, don't you? Hey, wait a minute. I'm a library donor. Yeah, well, you're a social deviant. No, I'm not. I'm a library donor. I'm just telling you about a problem. Well, hopefully we won't have to deal with people like you hacking into your computers. They use Google.
Well, and that's funny because the closest thing to a hacker in this trio this evening would be Viken. His stock and trade is the IT world. So.
Oh, you want to get any closer? Find any 10 or 12-year-old boy or girl in that library who actually can show Cheryl how to find this stuff.
Yes.
She needs a lesson from them.
I went around and I looked, and they weren't researching jobs. Come on!
Oh, man.
This is a canard. It's a duck. So that's crazy. Okay, so we have yet another story now, and Mike's going to tell you all about the marijuana story that he follows so carefully. Go ahead, Mike.
Yes. Well, apparently the city of Cave Junction's got a beef with the marijuana dispensaries there. They don't want this going on. And so they have decided that they're going to take it to court, and they got an injunction here. It was today or yesterday. And
Mike?
Yes.
They got a cave injunction.
Yes, that's right. Yes, thanks so much. And so anyway, KDRV put out a story here earlier today, and they followed it up with video at 5 o'clock, which I just so happened to catch, and here it is.
A court ruling out of Cave Junction could set a precedent for cities with medical marijuana dispensaries. The circuit court judge decided since marijuana is still illegal under federal law, cities and counties can refuse to issue business licenses. Newswatch 12's Casey Kirchner tells us more about this decision and how one dispensary is working around it.
This court decision came down just this week between the city of Cave Junction and Providing All Patients Access, or PAPA. It's a medical marijuana dispensary here in Cave Junction. PAPA has been legally up and running since August, but under a regular retail license in the city. That license is set to expire in just 5 days. And now the city of Cave Junction says it will not issue a new one because PAPA is selling medical marijuana. And the circuit court decision allows the city to now make that call. The attorney that represented the city in court says this has been a long debated issue in the state, and with this decision, it opens the door for more cities to refuse to license.
The Constitution in the Supremacy Clause states that the federal law, among other things, is the supreme law of the land, and so when state and federal law are in conflict, the state law is displaced by the federal law.
Just because he says that we can't be open doesn't mean we can't be open. We are open. Everybody knows we're open. We're doing the right thing, and we have a state license. So until the state revokes our license or until the police handcuff us and take us out of here, we're not going nowhere. We're going to be here for our patients.
PAPA owners and managers say for the last 10 months they've helped over 1,400 patients, providing jobs and help the economy in Cave Junction. They plan to continue to fight to get the new license in the city. With this ruling established, now there's the opportunity for appeals. In Cave Junction, Casey Kirchner, Newswatch 12.
Well, there you have it. Viken, I'd be interested to hear what your assessment of the judge's take on the supremacy clause was.
He's wrong. I have to say it, but the Constitution doesn't say that federal law trumps state law. It says that the Constitution trumps state law or federal law. So, if the Constitution doesn't allow the federal government to do something, and the federal government creates a law saying we're going to do this or ban something or whatever, and it's not allowed by the Constitution, then the states can ignore it and make their own laws or whatever. So the question is whether the Constitution says the federal government can ban or regulate marijuana. And I hate to be joining up with Mark Seligman on this, but he should be here saying this. But as far as I know, the Constitution doesn't really give the federal government that kind of regulatory power. So this judge might actually be incorrect.
Now, just a second. Let's consider the source here, Mike. What kind of plant is that behind you, and what kind of plant do you have on your shirt?
Well, no, guys, you want something funny? I went down to the Grange today to get some stuff for my garden, and just as I was pulling up these three. Okay, I'm gonna talk stereotypes here for a second. Three very dark Rasta guys come out with the dreadlocks and the look, and I could hear Bob Marley playing in my head, and I said to myself, this is a terrible stereotype, but what are they here to get supplies to grow?
Yeah, that's right.
These were total Rasta dudes who do not look like locals. It was a very strange moment. So I'm thinking that maybe they're here to, take advantage of Oregon's, culture of culturing. It's amazing. Yes. That's bamboo, by the way.
Yes, of course it is. Yes. Sorry. Yeah, sure. So one of the things
bamboo.
One of the things you may wish to know about Brian Holsclaw is he was the fellow, he's involved in Papa's, not Papa, and Mama's, the two dispensaries there, legal marijuana dispensaries. And it's going to be legal apparently in Oregon in just a few days. Okay, whatever. When they went in front of the Cave Junction City Council, and we broadcast live from there, our very first live broadcast.
Yeah, that was spotty at best.
Well, it was the first time. Okay.
Yeah, but
and the mayor there referred to them as enemies of the government.
Oh.
That's nice. And so I would remind some of our friends out there, I'm not a marijuana smoker myself, but I would like to remind them that mayor, including the mayor of Grants Pass, who is supposedly making money off of people being forced to grow marijuana indoors. Sounds familiar, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Both of these fellows are up for re-election in a year. And I talked yesterday with Peter Gendron, and he says, well, what do you think about that? And I said, well, from your point of view, Peter, what would happen if you had a mayor that was dead set for capitalism and marijuana? You guys could set the tone for marijuana for the country. Now, there's going to be, I don't like that. Well, listen, just relax. It's going to be a legal product in a few days. It shouldn't be. You lost the vote. I'm not smoking it.
There it is.
Okay? Viken may be right now, but I'm not.
No. I do not indulge, man.
Not on camera. Yeah, we got you. Okay. So, Mike, apparently we have, the rumor has it that we have a third story right here at the top of the show. What's up with that, bud?
Yeah, I don't know. It's when it rains, it pours, I guess. Apparently, the city of Grants Pass is proposing a sales tax, and we had theoretical taxes that the city council guys were on KJO. This was a couple of weeks ago, Dale, when we taped that, and they said, okay, there are any number of new possible taxes that we can use to help.
Yeah, they had six different taxes, 6 different kinds of taxes that they could propose.
Right, and so what you're going to hear in this story is you're going to hear how rosy the scenario really is, or will be, if we pass a sales tax. And you know, we might even be able to get rid of property tax. So here we go.
Yeah, fat chance.
Only 2 Oregon cities charge a sales tax, and Grants Pass could become the third.
A sales tax is the most equitable way of a permanent funding solution for that's not a countywide program, for the rural residents to pay their fair share of the system they use.
City Manager Aaron Kubik says the criminal justice system needs help now. 4 failed county levies in the last 3 years is negatively affecting employees and city organizations.
It's clear that from a countywide perspective, the public does not support criminal justice levies of any kind at this point in the way they've been presented.
Now the city has a task force designed to make recommendations on how to implement a sales tax in the city. Kubik says this is the best permanent funding solution. Business owner Jeff Voigt is one member of the task force. He says even though he's not in favor of a sales tax, it could be the best option. It's extra money which could come from non-residents.
Who stop off, off of I-5, if they're helping share the cost of some of the benefits we have, that's more dollars coming into our community. And every dollar that comes into our community from an outside source and stays in our community is something that can help make our community better. If it helps fund our public safety systems and helps repair some of the things that we have here, then that's something we should look at as an option.
One proposal with the sales tax is it would replace current property taxes and fees paid by city residents.
Those can go away possibly, and we can, through this process, eliminate some of those taxes, which will take some burden off of certain business owners or certain property owners and certain people throughout our whole community who use some of these existing fees. And by eliminating those, again, we're going to spread it out over more people.
Boyd says this group's decision may be an example for other Oregon counties who are in the same situation, struggling for funding. Covering your news, Aaron Nilsson, News 10.
And now I'm the task force arrives at any decision one way. Executive director.
So, as you can see, this guy's new. He apparently doesn't know how government works because they're not going to lower your property taxes. They're not going to have this sales tax replace your property taxes. That doesn't happen. They always try to bait you with that. You see, I'm from California, so I'm pretty well versed in these things.
You too, huh?
They always they pitch you something. Oh yes, this is going to be wonderful. The lottery was. I mean, our kids were going to be in gold-plated desks, and they were going to have the very best of what was available in education. It wasn't a year or two after that they were already asking for more money. So understand that when they're asking you for a sales tax, and listen, go whatever way you want to go on that, but it is not going to ultimately be a net kickback to you. It just isn't.
No, they're simply not going to take away the other revenue streams they've got going, and are trying to impose even more. Oregon is getting Californicated. I've heard that term, where they're essentially trying to copy all of the successful programs to suck up the money down in California. They're bringing those schemes up here. Once and the sales tax, there's an old saying: once the camel gets its nose under the tent, it's coming in.
That's right. And then they could probably bump it up unilaterally. As time goes by, they start out with a fairly innocuous amount and then bump it up left and right. Now. It's funny you said that about California, because California has revenue streams only Oregon just dreams about the revenue streams that California has. I mean, they are swimming in money down there. However, they have sucked up so much of it, and they're using it for salaries and benefits, and all the same corruption that we're dealing with here on a local level is going down there on steroids. And it's gotten to the point where they are raiding their roads fund to fund salaries and benefits and things like that, and it shows.
They should definitely not do that. The roads used to be wonderful in California. They're not anymore.
Yes. They're awful. They're awful. The last time I have property down in the Bay Area. The last time I went down there, the worst the roads have ever been in my lifetime.
I lived in Sonoma County down there, and the same routine was pulled down there, as in, we can't get enough tax money, we have to cut law enforcement. And that's the same routine they pull every time. So they did that so they could squeeze a few more percentage points out of us in more and more taxes. It's a never-ending cycle. If you think about it, the Boston Tea Party was over a very small tax, but it was because the Americans recognized the principle behind it and what it would turn into. It wasn't the amount; it's what was being done is what inspired the Boston Tea Party. So here we are. We see they want to get a little sales tax going, a little more property tax, whatever, and it's just going to keep growing. So you have to stop it at the principal moment, and that's what the Tea Party was about.
And this is the fantastic thing about what's happening in Josephine County right now is that I think a lot of people are realizing that we are watching this thing. We kind of have control now. We're watching it, and the time to quell the tide here is now. Stop it now before it gets in there and out of control.
So
one of the good things about this show is you've just seen a report from Channel 12 and another from Channel 10 and a little bit of analysis here from people who don't know what they're talking about. And so this is really right. So this can be valuable to you. What we're trying to be is one place where you can go and get the information. I just got a couple little things to add in. Inside baseball, for those who are watching this carefully. One is, isn't it interesting? Channel 10 is back again. They've decided Josephine County does actually exist, and they sent somebody down to do a fairly basic story. One of the interesting things to me about this Inside Baseball is they decided to use some stock footage they had of a city bus stop. Wrong example to use when you're describing how the city best spends your money. Do you remember the over $100,000 they were spending on each of the bus stops? This isn't a good idea, fellas. And my favorite clip of all, when they're in this little back room, it's a little conference room that they have that's near the mayor's office. And for those of you who are watching carefully, and you get these little tiny gitchy things, why did they have a close-up of somebody holding a potato chip?
Yes, I saw that. I thought, well, yes, some people, they may not want to sit, but they are in favor of potato chips.
What's strange about this is if you're at this thing and you're shooting video, which we do all the time, all of us do here. One is, why are you shooting somebody holding a potato chip? And then, why would you use that in your news story?
Yeah. You're going through all your video and you go, oh yeah, that's
we got to have that shot.
Holy smokes, that's desperation for stock footage right there.
It definitely is.
Yes.
But most telling is using the thing about the bus stops. Now, I'm going to slightly interrupt the flow of it here, but since we're talking briefly about bus stops, one of the things I did not get a chance to tell you about one of the previous meetings where Scott Chansey showed up. I personally think that he's a good county employee. It's nice to be able to pick out somebody that does a good job. He had said at today's admin meeting, I talked to him in the hallway, and he pointed out, he says, I don't know why the Courier wrote this way. And I said, what are you talking about, bud? Well, they wrote, let me pull this up here, they wrote the following. And you'll never guess, no one could ever guess who I'm talking about, what journalist miswrote this story. It was Jim Moore. Okay, it's called, it's hard to do this stuff quickly. It's called Bus Stop Grant on Commissioner's Agenda by Jim Moore. And it says here, I'll tell you, the Josephine County Board of Commissioners is expected to approve an agreement with the City of Grants Pass Wednesday, allowing the city to receive federal money for improvements to bus stops. Scott Chansey says, I talked to Jim Moore, and I thought that's what he was going to write. And I explained to him, this is not about bus stops, Jim. It's not about bus stops, Jim. Jim, it's not about bus stops. So what did the article end up with? Bus stop grant on Commissioner's agenda.
Yeah, and I was there when that was going on, and that was about there are many patches, little patches of sidewalk that are not connected to one another. You have sidewalk and then dirt. So this grant is about filling in those areas, those blank spaces with sidewalk continuity.
Now, I got to say, really, when I first heard this, Yes, that's correct. And when I first heard this, I went, "What? Come on!" But think about it a little bit. I'm not talking about skateboarders inconvenienced by this, but if somebody is in one of those little, I've got a retirement home that's near me, or whatever the euphemism these days, and these mostly old guys are tooting along in their little vehicles, and it's not really very easy for them to suddenly go down into a muddy ditch and then back up. Okay, they're trying to get to a bus stop, and they would sure like it if or there's some people around here that are having a little hard time walking, and they would really like it if it was sort of a continuous sidewalk. If there's federal funds or state funds available for this, okay, but it's not going to bus stops. And even though, we've all had this experience with these guys, they misspelled my nephew's name, or that wasn't the score, or this isn't what the commissioner talked about, or where's this story? He even talked to Jim Moore ahead of time. Please get this right, please. And he said, and he wrote it anyway. The way I told him was not correct. That's Jim Moore of the Daily Courier.
It's not that hard to get it right. That's the amazing thing about it. I don't remember us being somewhere talking to somebody and go, and then a couple of days later go, wow, I sure screwed that one up. I don't, yeah, I don't know.
Okay, so the fourth part of our show here, which is about this thing over my shoulder, is we have seen, Viken got a chance to go to a meeting the other day, yesterday, and it was about a film which had played on PBS, and it's one of at least 2 films that they've made, and part of the content is when you have bullies in your area, they might be, Klan guys, they might be people who think that the Stars and Bars is a cool flag. It is kind of a cool looking flag, but what does it represent? And they were talking with each other about these kinds of things that could potentially happen in our area. And you saw the video yesterday where Cheryl Walker decided to tie that together with some theory that she agrees with, that we don't need to worry about ISIS or foreign fighters. We need to worry about rural conservatives, because they're the real enemies of this nation, really. And so Viken went to the meeting yesterday to try to sort of see what kind of conclusions are these guys coming, and for what are they gearing up. So Viken, why don't you tell us a little bit about your perceptions of what happened?
Sure, and I'll give you a very brief rundown on what the movie was about. It was a documentary called Not in Our Town, and it's actually a good watch. It has to do with a few decades ago, a small community in which the Nazi skinheads or whoever were harassing the Jewish residents and some of the black and Native American residents, throwing rocks through windows, painting swastikas, wreaking havoc. Clearly there was a problem. So for some reason, I guess it's important to have a meeting about this in this town because we have some sort of serious problem. Okay, so that meeting was actually about, well, how do we address this without having an inciting incident or a similar problem in this community? What are we still going to do about it? And one of the approaches was that, well, we need to go and have the pastors of this town do kind of like talking about supporting the levy, also talk about supporting this agenda to defeat this angst, this racism, this anti-LGBT, whatever is going on in our community, that's not really enough of a problem that we have an inciting incident to to jump off of. So the group is actually trying to find ways to proactively bring in especially leaders of influence, which would be the clergy, to then pass the message on down to their congregations. And the message, of course, is going to be things like, well, okay, this group is going to be doing something this Saturday. They're going to Salem to protest Sheriff Joe Arpaio, the racist who so Arpaio's appearing in Salem, and they're going to go down there and hold a counter protest, and they're going to stake out an area by the fountain because by golly it's going to be hot, so yes. Occupy the fountain. And this is the sort of thing that they want to stand up against. But looking around this town, I have a hard time finding the sort of problem that the group is wanting to address. Have you guys seen any of
but
this?
you know what?
Oh, yes.
But listen, as I noticed that when we were talking about this in social media here this morning, one of the people who was at this or is involved in it was also a part of the conversation, and she was repeating the same lines about this study that Cheryl Walker had. So it's entirely possible, and I'm purely speculating here, that they want to identify the right-wing crazies in this town and shut them down. This is the same sort of situation that they did to Sandy Casanelli. They demonized her big time. And it may well be that they are trying to get a quick reaction force for that type of thing, set up.
And most concerning to me is that they're wanting the pastors to get in.
Oh, yeah. There's a formula for success. Right. They had described Sandy Casanelli as Casanoli. Yes. When we went back and we did a study, she voted no 10% of the time. 90% of the time she voted with the other commissioners. Now, wait a minute. How do you earn the name Casanoli when you only voted no 10% of the time? Because they were out to demonize her. And speaking of demonizing, and not just, this, if you disagree with authority, you were a Satan worshiper, we can leave that aside. We don't even need to mention the fact that they had said, if you question authority, you're a Satan worshiper. We don't have to mention that, Mike, so stop mentioning that.
Yes.
But one of the things
you're right. You're right. That's a good idea. Let's not go there.
No, I don't want to mention Satan worshipers again, especially equating them to our founding fathers. Thank you very much. They question authority. One of the things that happened when these fellows from Cuffs were on KJO radio is they were equating, and they were helped by the guy from KJO. They were equating the people who were voting no on the levy to ISIS coming into our community and sowing the seeds of hate and discontent.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. There it is.
Isn't this what these guys are talking about?
Actually, there was a bit of that, and of course there was the support for preaching pro-levy from the pulpit, and the fact that these right-wingers are targeted as the enemy, Republicans by name specifically. So it's a political group. It's a political action group, and they're trying to bring the political agenda to the pulpit, which I object to. History is full of that being done. Well, I could mention the National Socialist Workers' Party of Germany doing that, and a few other, Benito Mussolini talked about taking control of religion and using it to preach the political line, and I'm pretty sure that's not a good idea.
And then there's Mark Owens.
All right. So, but I'm going to say something positive about this group. They have the potential to do a lot of good. I mean, look at this. The Black Panthers are out there saying they're going to kill white people. They're going to wade through a dead sea of white people's blood. And there's a perfect opportunity to talk about this kind of hate and angst and do it from the pulpit, because what the Black Panthers are doing is, if it inspires anyone, and even in our community, to act on their words, then that's a serious matter. And they're being very open about their incitements to violence. So I believe that this group, and I would heartily support this, by the way, should speak about genuine hate, racism, and angst that we see right there on the streets. And the Black Panthers are the perfect example. That's something that we should have the preachers talk about. Good. Let's do that. Let's see if they'll go for it. Because I would like to encourage that.
Yeah, locally, local Black Panthers, boy, they would sort of stick out like a sore thumb around here. We don't need to go all over the country to find bullies. Mike, so if I mention bullies to you and the name Keithek, what immediately comes to mind for you, sir?
I know I'm breaking the law and I don't care.
Yeah, how about you, Beacon?
Uh-oh. No, I can't think of any right at the moment.
Oh, okay, well, it'll come to you later.
Look what Cheryl Walker said to you. I'd stand for this guy's, character before I'd stand for your existence. That's a death threat. Come on.
That's a little bit of a bullying tactic. When Keithek cornered me and was pushing me out the door with his big belly and the front of the Ann Basker, and it kept yelling out, I know we're breaking the law and I don't care. That's a little bit of bullying. What about this guy Larry Graves when he says to someone, "I'm going to get you off of this airport"? That's probably against federal law to say that to somebody, to threaten, and then threatening him with physical assault or, F this, F that. I got to stop saying F because I mentioned this at a meeting, and Keith Hick took great. I don't like it when you use that language. Just saying the word. So from now on, I'm going to say I'm going to G you. I'm going to G you and G you. Well, what does that mean? Well, Simon G. Hare, doesn't it mean the same thing?
Oh, that's cool. You could just say bleep. Bleep.
I don't like it when you bleep things. Okay, so Mike, what about? You're trying to give Viken a little break here. Mike, what bully tactics do you come up with when I say the words Cheryl Walker?
Well, the example of that we just saw earlier in the show, in that the video, we're not having any cameras on chairs today.
I'm calling the
cops
because I'm calling the police because you are not following the rules. What rules would those be, ma'am? Well, there's plenty of rules, and you can find it. I did. I went down. I said, "Where are the rules?" There are no rules. There were no rules. The police came and they asked her because I talked to them. Well, where are these rules? Well, we have rules. Yeah, but where are the rules? Well, we have rules. Well, where are the rules? That didn't get them anywhere. They won't come again. Bully. Okay, gentlemen.
Yeah.
Simon Hare.
Let's see here. Okay, that would be I'm texting your daughter. You've called me on it, and now I'm going to tell you that you better leave me alone because my lawyer friends will do you harm.
That's really astounding. How about the way that he treated the detective that came to his front door to talk to him about his stolen vehicle? How did he treat that detective?
Yes, not very well. No, this is and
he shut the door in his face.
The greater point that we're making here is that this is not the proper affect for a public servant or a public employee. They're supposed to be working in our best interests, and clearly it doesn't always happen that way.
Well, Viken, now why are you suggesting, Viken, that everybody travel up to Portland to do this protest that you started when you could do it right at the end Basker?
Well, seriously. Actually, Salem, Sheriff Joe's going to be in Salem, so that's where that whole thing's going to be.
Yes.
I want to say something actually positive about this, the idea behind this group. The direction they may go, we don't know, but there is something to be said for stopping hate crimes that are genuine, real hate crimes, like attacks on people, any people. They were defending the Jewish people in the town, which is great. This was decades ago, and apparently there's been some effort to get the Aryan Nation folks to stop harassing people in this area, and I guess that is taken care of. So, but what does concern me, and I think perhaps with some other people, is that their new targets are by name Republican or the right-wing folks. You're saying worse than ISIS? I don't think so. That we're going to be seeing some things in this country pretty soon that, if people are not aware of, they won't even understand. And it's going to get very interesting. So I hope that this group will recognize and admit who is truly out to do harm, to bring hate to the community, to harm people who are not like themselves, to bully them even. Oh, and by the way, this bit about the flag, somebody said something funny on Facebook. They showed a picture of a cake with the Confederate flag on it and says, now you have to bake this cake if we demand it, right? Even if you don't believe it, you don't like it, right? But that's the precedent that's been set. You can be completely against it, but you have to bake it, because if you don't, then you're a hater, you're something, you're horrible. If you don't bake what we say you have to.
Yes, but you know what? As we have seen today, the law no longer means anything in this country because there was solid law that had to do with this Supreme Court test case for Obamacare, and that should have been upheld, and it was not. and instead they upheld the law, and they really did some quick dancing to make that happen. So if they can do that at the Supreme Court level, what's to stop them from picking and choosing the winners and losers of the battle over cakes?
That is the new game.
Well, now, since you've said some nice things about this group, I'm going to say some nice things about Obamacare. What?
Oh.
It's a terrible deal. You cannot do such a thing. Shut up. I'm on the show. I can do this. And that is, I remember I went to some meeting, it was a couple of years ago, and some guy, get your hands off of I don't believe in socialism. Socialism is communism. Well, not exactly, but okay, go ahead. Yeah, well, I don't like this thing where socialism, well, do you get Social Security? Yes, I do, and I deserve every penny of it. Well, where do you get your medication? Well, I get my medication from Canada. Hey, yeah, so get your government hands off my medication from socialist Canada. Okay, and the other thing is, I got to tell you guys, now maybe...
Well, hang on a second. Yeah. Hang on a second. When were you going to say something nice about Obamacare? Because you haven't yet.
Okay, well, I'm getting up to it. I was just about to, but you made me stop. Okay, good night, everybody. No, wait.
No, tell us. Don't leave us hanging.
No, I mean, no, go ahead.
Maybe you guys fall into a different category, but as for me, I don't have health care. So if I think that I can get something that's going to pay to repair these teeth, or pay to fix up my heart, or pay to get me out of this brain surgery that I so obviously need, sign me up. I would like low-cost health care.
There is a right way to do it.
It's a being low cost, obviously.
There actually is a right way to do it.
Yeah, but it's only low cost. It's only low cost for you. It's not low cost for everybody else that has to pick up the tab. This is my problem with socialized healthcare, and it is socialism, by the way.
Yes,
and
it is.
Socialism. The end aim of socialism is communism. Just ask Vladimir Lenin. That's who said that.
Just ask Paul Walter.
Yes, or Paul Walter, whatever. But the bottom line is that if the government was not so involved in healthcare, it would be a little bit more. The cost of your healthcare would be a lot closer to the idea that I can buy this phone right here for $100 that costs hundreds of millions of dollars to develop, and yet now I can buy it for $100. Well, the same thing to some degree would be available in healthcare because there's not all these middlemen involved with insurance companies and Medicare and all of that involved. And all of that adds to the cost of healthcare because all of these things are middlemen. I have a medical office tenants in a building that I own in Grants Pass. A humongous part of the expense that they have is paperwork, and they bill all of these services at a much higher rate than what they expect to be reimbursed because they know that those people are going to lowball them and get them in at a different amount. So all of the cost of healthcare is artificially held high, and it's because of government injecting themselves into the free market process.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Obamacare added a new tax on medical devices. They added huge new bureaucracies, people who have to get paid, salaries, benefits, retirement. How can you add all this stuff and even imagine that it's going to be cheaper? Clearly, it can't be. So this is why that gentleman's going to Canada to get his meds, is because Americans are being forced to pay all these extra costs to develop and get all these medicines to market, and they're paying all the extra costs. Whereas Canada and a lot of other countries, they're not having to pay that stuff. They just get the meds that have been developed and sold from the U.S. They get them cheap because they don't have all those bureaucrats in the middle level, and then they can sell the stuff cheap. So Americans go there to do an end run around all the layers and layers of costs that are applied here in the U.S.
And listen,
I agree with both of you 100% on this. I agree with you 100%. And Mike and I have said a number of times that probably we should consider the primary role of government is to get out of the way.
Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah, and listen, I totally understand, the viewpoint of people who they become used to getting the benefits of socialism, even if it's an end run going around to Canada. And people that say I earn Social Security, really most people that get Social Security, by the time they're done drawing from it, they have taken way more from it than ever put into it. And I'm not saying, because boy, that's a third rail. You have to be careful about that. But the bottom line is, yes. But the bottom line is that I believe personally we would all be better off if we came into life without the expectation that someone else was going to take care of us, and we didn't have the government meddling in our affairs. By the time you get down the road a ways, we would all be better off, because number one, we would be doing things to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves, and then also the market would be much more favorable for us to gain the things that we need to have, be it health care or sustenance of some kind or whatever. So that's my angle on it. And then listen, in those kind of worlds where you have a free market economy, which would seriously be doing a lot better than the economy is here right now, there would be charity. There would be a lot more charity than there is right now, because people would have excess. Their cups would runneth over, and they would be helping their fellow man who needs a handout.
Well, I'm going to have to sum this up, gentlemen. Sorry, Beacon.
Sure.
Got to sum this up because we're getting close to our time. As Mike had said something about, if people didn't come into this life expecting their needs to be taken care of, I have a solution for this. When those little babies are born and they start crying like adults do now, don't feed them. Let them fend for themselves.
Oh, you're cruel.
Right.